Hey everybody, so today is another Heresy Hump day. Today's a little bit of a special one, but it is going to follow the format of every Heresy Hump day that I pretty much have. And so I will have 3 topics today. I will be starting out with showing you my sponsor for the evening, and then the only difference in the format is that instead of doing the table update right away, I'm going to do it after my first topic, because the first topic of the evening is going to be that this is my 500th video, and I'm going to just do a little bit of a reflection on the channel, just because it is a little bit of a milestone, but we'll get more into that in a moment. And then I'll do a table update, and then I have sort of like a similar thing. I have a movie today I just wanted to just shout out and give my thoughts on without spoilers, so I won't be providing like a lot of detailed stuff. And that is a ghost story, and that is by David Lowry, it looks like, is the director. And then lastly, a bit of a lighter topic, maybe interesting, on the hobby side, is painting plateaus and sort of challenging yourself, and just a discussion about that. So, thanks for showing up for another Heresy Hump Day. What I have today for the beer sponsor is I have a strong beer, and let's see here. This is from a box that my wife picked up for me as a treat just this last weekend. There's 3 of them in here. So it's by Big Rock, which is a local beer brewery in Calgary. It was funny. So these are the barrel-aged editions. It's a new special edition gift pack with 3 exceptionally crafted Big Rock brews. So this has a rye. What it is it's a rye barrel-aged ale, a Scotch barrel-aged ale, and a Flemish red. And so I've never had these before. It says an oak Flemish red. So which one do you think I pulled out for today? Well, of course I pulled out, because I wanted to try it, the Scotch barreled aged strong beer. So this is a 7.2% alcohol beer. Not the strongest strong beer I've ever had, but I'm actually kind of glad about that, because I actually don't like it when it gets too high in the percentage of alcohol for beer. And so yeah, I will be sipping on this while we do this chat today. Hopefully it won't explode on me. No, that's good. So, there's something related to the table update after my first topic, which is my 500th video. And so, I wanted to do my topic first, so then you'd understand it in the table update. So it's a bit of a timing thing as to the reason why I changed my format. So now, perfect moment. Cheers, everybody. 500 videos. Interesting, you know, I don't really pay attention to the milestones all that much. I did do a giveaway after getting 500 subscribers. And then at 1,000, I kind of ignored it. And then I'm coming up on 1,500 subscribers. But I'm on, with this channel, I started in 2012. And I would say I'm definitely on a slow grow sort of process. And, you know, for those of you that are content producers and, you know, looking at your numbers and thinking that maybe, well, you know, 1,400 subscribers sounds like a lot, you know, in this hobby or whatever. I've been doing this for a long time now. I've been doing this since 2012. And so I grow, like, at a fairly slow and steady rate, and for me, it is just fine. I think it's fine to do giveaways, and I think they're fun. I think, you know, it makes somebody happy. It's usually you're giving something you don't need or whatever, or just doing something like that, supporting your channel. Nothing wrong with it. I don't fault anybody for doing it. I've done it. Thing, though, is that I kind of find that when you make your... If it is like, you know, let's get me up to like a certain amount and to get to a certain number of subscribers, and then I'm going to give something away. Given that I'm in this like slow grow process now, and just sort of the slow and steady, and then I'm like sort of the tortoise, like in it for the long run, with my hobby channel, I find that what I get in the end, I may very well get lasting subscribers as far as numbers go, like it may actually come up, but what I find that I really get is I get a number of people that come for a contest to get something that I then never really hear from, or don't really know that they ever watch my videos. And so it really isn't achieving anything that I'm wanting out of the channel. And so I will probably still do a giveaway at one point in the future, but I'll probably do it for no reason. And I was even thinking I may even have more than one kind, you know, at one point. But it's not going to be like really to get subscribers, to celebrate a subscriber increase. Now, this is my 500th video. And it's funny, like, when first looking at that number, I thought, well, I've been doing this since 2012. It's now 2018. That's like a really long time to, like, I thought, well, wow, shouldn't it even be more videos than that? Because it feels like I put out a fair bit of videos over the years. But I guess it's a fair bit. I don't know. But it was a sort of an interesting number that just popped up on my screen. So I thought I would just sort of make a point of it with this Heresy Hump Day, and maybe put a big 500 on my title here, just to sort of point it out. Now, a couple of things that I wanted to mention is that now that I mentioned that I'm not doing a giveaway just for this 500 thing, I decided what could I do that would be kind of interesting to for the fact that I've actually put out 500 videos. What can I do for that would be interesting? And you know what I thought is, I've never marketed myself as a channel, whether it be in 2012 or even today, as like the expert when it comes to hobbying. I mean, there's so many great people on YouTube, and there's so many people that approach the channel in the beginning as having done it for 20 years. They're painting and things, or are just magnificent painters. I've never sold the channel that way, as like, come here to learn how to paint. Having said that, over the years now, and I can say that because it's been a while, I've had people that have asked for certain things, you know, for me to show them. Maybe they're new to the hobby, maybe they just like the way I do something. But the one that has come up at times more frequently, and I'll show a little video, maybe a recent thing that I've done related to it, is just how I paint woodland Indians. Because I do a lot of the musket and tomahawks, and that's a big part of the channel. Probably the most videos I have in a playlist. People have at times kind of asked about that. And I like the way I do skin for woodland Indians, like, but it's not the only way to do it. It's not the best way necessarily. I do think it comes out nice. I think it's a way to do it that looks nice. And so what I'm going to do is try my first... I may have once or twice done some things with airbrushing, but I'm going to try my first with a brush, like on-camera painting tutorial, and it's going to be on how to paint... it's really going to be on how to paint woodland Indian skin. That's going to be the main thrust of it, but by the end of the video, it's going to be a finished miniature. And so that's going to be sort of a little video I'm going to do now, crossing the 500 videos threshold. Little painting tutorial. And it's, like I said, not something I've really incorporated on the channel too much in the past. I don't know that it'll ever be the thrust of the channel, painting tutorials, but I just thought it might be something cool to do. Kind of showing some people stuff that people have asked about in the past and relates to a core part of the channel. And so that'll be coming up. Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about channel philosophy. I'm going to make this kind of quick, but you know, I just realized I haven't tasted this yet since opening it. It's usually the first thing I do. That is exceptionally good. Oh my god, that is so good. Okay, so I don't normally get that excited about one of the sponsors. I don't normally buy Big Rock for beer. I like their Grasshopper, for those of you that have lived in Canada, as a refreshing beer. This is a Scotch aged beer. I guess it's in the Scotch casks, but this is such a nice beer. Like, you can really taste the character. It is great. Oh my gosh, I wish they made this as a regular beer. Wow. Okay, so sorry, I kind of got off track there, but this is a live. Well, it's not live, but you know, it's all happening. I'm not editing this out. So that was good. So channel philosophy. Nothing's changing about my channel. I'm not bringing this up to have it change at all. You know, I talked a little bit about how the channel is a slow growth channel. I oftentimes do things on my channel that I know actually don't interest even the larger groups within the wargaming hobby themselves. But they're things that are fun for me. Like many people, I think we find this hobby to be very therapeutic and just really good for sort of the mind, stress reliever. It's, you know, nice to have projects, things to look forward to that you're working on. I think it hits so many areas. If you are interested in this hobby, it hits so many areas that I feel that as well. And for me, the channel being the way it is a way for me to have that part of my life the way I want it and have the channel the way I want it and not really compromise too much in what I think just other people want. I've had times where I've started a game and then literally I had people ask, like 6 months after I was playing the game, like, how come, you know, please more of this content, like, why aren't you doing this anymore, like that kind of implication. And I have gotten that more than once, and I understand that because that's sort of the need of the viewer. And really my channel in the end probably appeals more to somebody with just sort of either a diverse palette, you know, within the wargaming hobby, likes to see new things, or perhaps with these Heresy Hump Day videos, like something to paint to, and God forbid, maybe likes my personality a bit. I think that's a big thing with YouTube channels, is that if somebody, we all can grade each other's personalities if we're not actually, you know, really compatible personalities, and that can come through on YouTube. And just, how many times have you heard, like, somebody in your family, like when you were a kid, say, like, when some broadcaster came on, oh, I hate that guy, like, turn the channel. Like, it's the same thing in YouTube. So you have to kind of like who you're watching. So nothing's really going to change. I've really enjoyed this. Now on my 500th video, I really enjoyed this experience. I really find that the community in wargaming on YouTube is like 99% positive. But then, like anything on the internet, you do have like a small percentage that are actually quite negative. And so, particularly if you're new to my channel or you're just watching this, the way, and I've never outright said this, but I don't really like the channel to be too serious. If you saw my unboxing recently for Saga, you'll notice, I mean, like, that whole dramatic unboxing was meant to be funny, and that's just my dumb sense of humor. I did a stop-motion video once that was, like, really just meant to be fun, you know, is all it was meant to be. The time on my video where I put the ring on that I did on the 500th one and disappeared, it's all of that stuff is meant just to be fun while we're doing this hobby and meeting each other and hanging out and talking. I've really enjoyed over time meeting lots of different folks, and I'm really happy that I've met a number of people that I've continued to talk with, and I love the whole going back and forth, you know, with the comments and just on other people's videos as well. Like, to me, it's just a lot of fun to be able to engage people that are interested in my hobby, as well as, you know, also meeting friends locally, you know, to game with and stuff as well. And so all of that stuff's going to stay the same. Nothing's going to change. And I guess the only other thing I was just thinking about is just, and this is a true Heresy Hump Day piece to it, is with the way you meet people through the internet and then, like, the comments and things. I mentioned how the vast majority are positive. I'm coming up to talk about the ghost story point in the future, and this sort of blends with it. But it's just funny. I just find it really interesting how you get these, you get comments, and you give comments, to folks, obviously. But when you're actually like going through your day as a content provider, and you actually like just get this thing that'll say, like, you'll pick up your phone and it'll be like, great one, like, you did really, really good with that, really nice, what do you think about this, it'll be like the various comments like this, and that'll be the vast majority of them. And then, like, occasionally you'll get something that'll say, either that's just garbage, like, or something to the effect much milder, but just really negative. And the thing that's funny is, I was thinking this in a really abstract way recently, like in the concept of modern man, like modern man, modern woman. You have this like device that just sends you these messages, and you're walking through life, and you see these messages throughout the day, and you're getting all this like input, right, out of like thin air. There's really probably no real equivalent to it, like in historical man, like ancient man, as compared to, like, you almost liken it to hearing voices or like getting messages from spirits. I mean, it's literally like this stuff just coming at you. Now, we just take it for granted because we live in this society, but it's just kind of funny how that plays into your daily life, and how it's really a unique phenomena to modern man. And I just kind of was just marveling at it. And it's not even really just as a content producer for YouTube. I mean, you could easily say this could be in any sort of social media where this happens. And it was just really interesting to me because some of it, the vast majority of it in my experience, is positive, but then some of it's negative. And I just find it really, really an interesting topic unto itself. And this channel has just been kind of wild in that respect as to how you actually experience all these things. What I'll do now is I'll just cut this short because I think I'm just going in a really weird direction with this. But cheers, everybody, to the 500. Thank you for staying along, for many of you that have, and continue to follow the channel. I really enjoy folks that comment, and I also really enjoy watching all your all channels as well. And so, yeah, we will go to the table update. Yeah, so just a small table update. I was going to pull out some of my Savage Core stuff in the terrain that I just painted. You may have seen it in a recent bat rep that I did for it. I can pull that out at another point later if folks want to see it, but I was really happy with the way that came out. That took a lot of time last week. Lots of work with plaster and making plaster cloth, and for hills, and just using plaster just to basically create bases and things, for trees and things like that. And the stalagmites were a lot of fun to make, and I was probably the most happy with those because it was a little of an idea that I had. I kind of came up with my own idea on how to make those, and I thought it came out really nice. So I suppose, since I'm talking about terrain, is I do have another terrain project coming up as well. This is sort of the start of it, but I was given these trees by a friend. I got a bag of them. I've got a lot more than these. I've probably got about, I'm going to say 15, 16, 20 of these. Well, probably more like 15 or 16 between these two types. And I'll be putting some plaster and stuff on the bottom of these. I've just glued them down at the moment. But what I'm going to be doing is magnetizing the bottoms of these and making tree stands that fit these and kind of go in them like magnets. And so I'm planning on making, with the new Saga rules, both large wood and small wood tree stands, and I can kind of interchangeably put the trees in, not only just to mix up the trees, but more importantly, when the miniatures are just going onto the stands, being able to move them easily through the stands, will be helpful as well. And so, just sort of getting things ready. I'll be doing some swamps, and I was even thinking of doing some hills, because I have one big hill, but I'd like to do some other hills, and I might do them with plaster and plaster cloth, as I sort of did the stalagmites, and kind of try move some of those techniques over that I tried with that into this Saga terrain. And so that's basically what I'm going to be working on for terrain. I'm just fitting that in with my painting at the moment. I do have a game of Saga coming up next week with the new rules, and so I'm kind of looking forward to that. I'm going to use my Danes. So I have the painting done for my cows. I have to still finish the bases. For those of you who remember when I was just showing it, I did use some photos that Ralph Astley had sent me, and what I ended up doing is I ended up making sort of 4 different tones, color tones, based on the pictures he sent. Now, these two look quite similar, but they actually are a bit different. I used the same colors, but I used a lot more of a mahogany brown in this one to create a bit more of a reddish look. And so, yeah, actually quite happy with these. So even with that, I ended up, I'm not sure under this light how well you can see them, but I ended up doing a bit of, just adjust this a bit here, ended up doing a bit of a two-tone look, because really the pictures had some fur on the top and like on the top of the head that was a different color than like similar, but usually like a different color than the rest of the body. And so you might be able to see it a little bit more there. Actually, I should just zoom in so you can see it. But I created this sort of like two-tone look with the cow a bit. So that's that one. I showed this one, but I'll show it here close up. This one's definitely darker. You can see the two-tone in the face there, I think, a little bit. And then I did one, because there was one that was like white, and I did that one, and I also have like that bit of a two-tone where the hair on the top on that one was a bit, from the picture, a bit more, it was a little darker, you know, it was still like light colored, but darker on sort of the top of the head and the top of the body, and so that's what I tried to emulate there. I thought that came out nice. I quite like that. And then I had the little one that I chose one of the colors that was in the picture that was different than the others, and this is just more of just a lighter brown little calf. Yeah, so I'm going to do the bases for these guys at the same time that I do all the bases for all of them. I still have 2 horses to do, and this is going to be my sort of next painting, is going to be these horses, to get these done. And so one has, excuse me, I called them horses after everything in that other video. These are not horses, they're riding ponies. But yeah, I'll be doing those. Okay, and in the near future, I don't know like in what order in the queue, but I'm going to be doing a painting tutorial on this guy who is a Ottawa native, Ottawa First Nations, and I pulled him out of a whole box of woodland Indians that I still have to paint. See, I'm kind of in a situation where I don't really need to paint any more Indians, but because I love painting the Indians and I like having lots of them, I just, you know, I've always held on to that last box that I have, and that is the Warlord Games one that they distribute. I think it was Conquest was the initial company that sculpted them. But I thought this one would be good. I kind of looked through and then thought, which one would I like to do? I really like this guy's pose. I have to clean him up still. But I wanted one that had definitely a lot of skin, because it's a skin tutorial. Many of them wear jackets and things. But I thought the way he was holding the gun, like kind of relaxed there with his tomahawk, just looked really nice. He's got his sort of chin up. Really nice looking pose. I thought this will be the miniature that I do the painting tutorial on. Yeah. Alright, so I am going to go back to the chat. Okay, back to the chat. I have this light here that I was using for my table thing. It's distracting me. You don't see it on camera, but it's like sticking right up towards my head. So, I saw a movie recently on Netflix, and it was called A Ghost Story by David Lowry, and it's interesting because I think it was on the cover. I think you can see it, but it's not a spoiler at all if you've seen anything related to this. it does feature a ghost in the ghost story, and it's purely a sheet over someone with the holes sort of cut out, sort of like what you would see in like Peanuts, Charlie Brown's like the Halloween special, or like what we're all sort of used to, like a kid just making a simple ghost costume, which in many respects is a bit comical when you think about it. Like at first looking at it, you think about it that way. It's not an amazing special effect for a movie, and only after weeks having watched it, I thought about that, the whole idea of special effects. Many of us, including me, like fantastic special effects. But when you think about like an actor traditionally acting, sometimes they would need, or oftentimes, to act and have some sort of prop or person represent something that truly doesn't look like that, because you don't have all of the special effects kind of put in at that point, or even like, let's say, costumes made or something, and they still have to have like a good performance. And so to me it was just sort of interesting as to what and why they made a ghost for the ghost story, not with all the capabilities of what you'd have today, but just this sheet over a person. And as I talk about my thoughts on the movie, it'll kind of blend in with that in the sense that as to how the movie is and why that kind of really does augment the story a bit. Initially, when seeing a ghost that looks like that is a pivotal aspect of the movie, I kind of thought it was comical, kind of funny, just really odd. Just wasn't really sure how to take it, because it was just like the beginning of the movie, or early on in the movie, I should say. But as time went on, because of the way the movie is and the way it's developed, it actually, at a certain point, really invokes a lot of other emotions when you look at this being that looks like that, and really ranges anything from sadness to even sort of a little bit of menacing as far as the what's projected off of that character. The more you watch the movie, it certainly changes. The movie is a very slow, sort of cerebral film. If you really like fast action films, or if you're looking something with a lot of jump scares and really scary and like horror, like typical horror, you probably won't like it. That's kind of why you're wanting to watch it. I really see the movie as something that really tries to explore, with a lot of imagery, like fantastic imagery and techniques in the film. Obviously the afterlife, to a certain degree relationships, definitely loss, and the other one was really, in some ways, the actual nature of time itself, I think is explored in the film. The movie is an extremely emotional film, and another thing that kind of struck me, not until just today when preparing for the video, was how, in many respects, what you're doing in this film is you're a third person watching the movie, watching a third person in the movie, and a third person to their environment, which is very interesting sort of technique in storytelling. Another aspect of the film that was interesting to me is that there's at least one scene, but there's a number of ways that there's one scene where this is done in a drastic way, but then it's also a technique that's used throughout the film in smaller ways, is that they do things that I never thought you could do in a movie, and that is, certain things are just not classically deemed as entertaining, and so watching something that sort of drags on for a really long period of time, whether it be good or bad, if you only have like so many minutes in a movie, like as a director to allow for as far as screen time, you really have to choose really well, like how long you dedicate to something. If you take something that might be considered mundane in most circumstances and force a whole theater to watch it, depending on really where it's placed and what emotion that evokes and what it means throughout the whole story, I mean, it could be really bad in the sense that you can almost have people walk out because they just can't take watching this any longer. Or it could actually be very good in that it can actually impart on you something you never would normally get from a film, like an emotion or an experience, because of the length of time they dedicate to it, and despite it being something you never would normally see. And so I hope that rather than confuses you, sort of intrigues you, if you're interested in potentially watching it. There are certain things, I guess, even in life that you can watch and be a bit horrified or awestruck by it, but it's not something that's like sort of silver screen worthy in your mind, and that's kind of what I'm getting to. And they use that a couple of times really, really effectively. I think that's really all I wanted to say about it. I don't want to spoil it for folks. I kind of want to intrigue folks to watch it. It isn't a classic horror film. It's definitely a deep sort of thinking film, kind of about life. And yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I was really, really impressed by it. And like a lot of movies, because I saw it on Netflix, that I watch, occasionally I just give things chances based on kind of reading the description and looking at it and seeing how it's characterized, and then I'll watch it. And I've definitely watched some duds that I couldn't get through, but I've seen some excellent movies that way. So, A Ghost Story by David Lowry. That's my sort of impression without spoilers of it. Okay. So lastly, I have a little bit of a cheat sheet here, sorry. It's behind a D&D purple worm that was getting covered for my last topic. I wanted to talk about painting plateaus and the idea of challenging yourself. Now, it's an interesting topic to me because when everybody starts, everybody does this, in the sense that the first time you pick up a brush or do anything like as far as hobbying, you're on one of these painting plateaus and going up from like nothing, unless you have some sort of crossover skill because you already do hobbying or actual painting or something. But you can be going from nothing up onto this plateau of trying to learn something. And we all have kind of been there, and whether it be, depending on how much information you have when you start, may depend on whether you actually paint really thick paint onto miniatures and get brush strokes and have like a really hard time and wonder why it's not looking the way it's supposed to look and things. But even with all the information that's out there, whether it be YouTube or people that teach you or something, it still actually can be quite challenging, and you still have to work through these things, and you have to learn like exactly how thin to make your paint, or learn how to do various stages of painting, incorporate them together, and all of these little things. Well, once you're at a certain point where you're kind of happy with your work and like you feel like you can paint miniatures and be really satisfied, whether it be for tabletop standard or your standard even above that, there can be sort of the question as to whether you do the next one different at all. Like, you've done like a whole bunch of these miniatures, you're happy with them, and then you have a whole bunch of other ones to do, and you really could just do them the same way and be, for the most part, happy with them. Now, the assumption is that we all have something to learn, and we all have various techniques that we either don't know or struggle with, and there's always like new ways to do things. And if you look at your painting as like a progression, and your skill and your hobbying, then there's this thing where you have to kind of, in my mind, challenge yourself to do something a little differently. It could be different because it's a new technique altogether. It could be different because it's a new sort of color scheme. It could be lots of things. But inevitably, there's risk there. There's a risk of it coming out worse than you know you can already do it. Which, that's a hard thing for people to sometimes reconcile. Like, you get some miniatures, and we all want to paint these as best as possible. And so, like, are we really willing to maybe paint it worse than we did yesterday in order to improve our own skill? Because that's a real risk when you try something new and practice again with something. I should have probably brought some miniatures out just to show, but like, for those of you, I always kind of point to this one because when I was first trying non-metallic metal, I did the glider for the Green Goblin. For me, that was one where I was really just trying to do something new and trying to create metallic effects and that look of metal without actually using a metallic paint. And, you know, I was actually pretty happy with the result, but not because I thought that it was an excellent representation of non-metallic metal painting. I was more happy because I felt like it was kind of going towards that direction. Like I could see it, like to me, I did make it look like metal, just not as much contrast as I would have liked, and shiny and metallic. More of like kind of a duller metal that still reflected light, but wasn't as, you know, probably as good as I would have liked it if I could just have it be as good as I wanted it to be. And so the other point with the painting plateaus is that it may be a transition, that even when you want to learn something new, and it might be as good as what you could do yesterday by just putting metallic paint on there, or anything for any reason, it also may take you like several times, and you may only get better, you know, incrementally with each one. And so it can actually be a process that can take some time, and that's like a time investment where you don't necessarily have to do it. You just have to sort of justify it to yourself as to whether you want to do that, and to learn that skill, and whether it's needed is like a whole nother issue altogether. Another point that I wanted to bring up, though, in support of potentially doing new things to actually like put yourself on to get off the plateau, the hobby plateau that you're on, but trying to go up to another level, is I find that whether it be being like learning how to do oil washes, or whether it be non-metallic metal, or whether it be working on cartoon effects in painting versus my realistic style that I always was comfortable with and like preferred in the past for most things, no matter what it is, or whether it be airbrushing, no matter what it is, what I do believe that is a positive thing about challenging ourselves is that I look at all the techniques when we're painting as sort of like a carpenter's tool belt with all its tools, or anybody's tool belt. But and every time you learn a new technique, you're actually putting a new tool into the tool belt for the future when you want to do various things. And certain techniques do at times look better than other ones on certain miniatures, and so you really have a much more diverse palette of things that you can do, and hopefully like kind of all at a comparable skill set as you go along further and further. Whereas when you're first learning with that one tool, you know, it's not nearly as good. And so I'm kind of interested in everybody's thoughts on this. I feel like this is something I've embraced. You know, even if I end up painting something not as good as I could have the day before by just doing it as I know now, doing something just for the sake of doing it differently, and to do something new, and to improve and get better. I could think of really so many examples. You know, you could do it even, you could bring it into the way you base your miniatures too. Like you always just trying new things. And I thought it was an interesting kind of hobby talk, because it's also one of those things that sometimes we also, at certain points, we may not want to talk about, because, you know, like everybody remembers what it's like when they first started painting. And there's, to a degree, a lack of confidence there when you first start. And in particular, when you look around and you see everybody else is painting better than you, and like you're just trying to make it look like it's halfway decent, nobody really wants to go back there to that feeling initially. And so I think that can be a real reason why, once we're happy with where we're at, we don't try to actually do anything different anymore, because we don't ever like want it to look worse than the way it is now, even if it means getting some sort of skill that apparently might look good. And so I was kind of interested in other people's thoughts on that as well, and whether you guys challenge yourself or think it's important. And if you guys do, feel free to like put in the comments what was the last thing you did that you can remember that where you challenged yourself and you weren't sure how it was going to come out, and whether it looked better or not doesn't really matter. Just that you actually kind of risked that process where you felt like you had that kind of feeling. Okay, well, I think this one might end up being a short one. It's just the way it sort of came out. Honestly, I was really freestyling that 500. I don't know what to say, like for that 500 video, but I just kind of felt like I wanted to say something, and then announced that I was going to do the painting tutorial a little bit as a celebration of that. And so, yeah, again, thanks everybody. Glad to have you on the channel, and see you on the next one. Take care.